Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. Gonna talk some boxing. I meant to get to this on Sunday, or at the very least yesterday, after the big Devin Haney Ryan Garcia fight, which really entertaining fight. But with everything that's going on, NFL draft coming up, and of course, right in the thick of the first round of the NBA playoffs, it kind of slipped past me. But I definitely wanted to make sure I got on here and did a show on this, just because boxing doesn't, it used to be such a love in the American sporting landscape, but it's not loved nearly as much anymore. It's kind of been bypassed in popularity by UFC, which is odd because when there are huge boxing fights, they still do tremendous numbers. But I definitely wanted to get on here and talk about that and show some love for what was an outstanding fight, and really get to that. But before we do, and we talk some Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right, so Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, two outstanding fighters. Devin Haney, I believe, was 29-0 coming into this matchup, undefeated. Had some big wins on his docket. Beat Vasyl Lomachenko about a year ago, I think May 20th, 2023. Personally, I thought that Lomachenko got robbed in that. I would have been fine with a draw. I would have been okay with that. Maybe you could squeak out a Lomachenko win, but I definitely didn't like Haney flat out winning that fight. Loma is one of the most skilled fighters in the world. But anyway, that's a different thing. But you had that, and then of course you had last year also you had the huge fight, the mega fight in the lighter divisions between Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. And of course, Tank Davis knocked out Ryan Garcia, I believe, in the 8th round with a brutal body blow. Ryan just couldn't get up. Ryan Garcia is a guy, he has legitimate power at this weight class. He has legitimate hand speed, not quite Amir Khan hand speed, but really good hand speed and really good power, dangerous left hook, tremendous weapon. He has been, he and Devin Haney have been rivals going back a long time. I think they had their first fight in the amateurs at like 12 years old. They fought each other, I want to say 6 times in the amateurs, and there's nothing definitive on this, but I think I read that Ryan Garcia won 4 out of the 6, but I'm sure Devin Haney would dispute that. But yeah, coming into the fight, there was a lot of craziness in the lead up. Ryan Garcia doing a lot of wild stuff on social media and just walking up to random people, asking them strange things in the streets, etc. And it was almost to the point that people were starting to wonder if he was mentally capable of going forward with this fight and putting his best foot forward. And well, it appears that Ryan Garcia clearly shocked the world, and maybe, just maybe, he was putting on an act for everyone. I'm not sure he was putting on an act, but he came in the bigger fighter, the stronger fighter, and his most dangerous weapon, which I'm sure Devin Haney prepared for, that left hook, but that left hook did damage. Devin Haney was knocked down for the first time in his career, actually was knocked down 3 times in this fight, and probably could have been knocked down 2 or 3 more, but they were ruled slips. I guess if you watch the fight, it depends on your perspective. Devin Haney fought a good portion of this fight with a broken jaw. Now, he kept getting up, he kept coming back. He definitely had that warrior spirit, so I respect that. But it was really interesting. So prior to the fight, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia made a gentleman's handshake type agreement that for every pound Ryan Garcia was overweight, he would pay Devin Haney $500,000. And so Ryan Garcia, I think, ended up weighing in at 143.2. So he had to pay 1.5 mil to Devin Haney. He gave him the money, no problem. All right. But I thought it was interesting that he did that. One, a lot of people say that when a fighter can't make weight, it shows a lack of discipline. That could be one thing, or it could just be that Ryan Garcia, being the naturally bigger man, has outgrown that 140-pound weight limit. for junior welterweight. It could be that, and maybe he knows that he could not have made it. He couldn't have weight drained down. Now, what was it? Friday was the weigh-in, so theoretically he could have tried to drain his way down by Saturday before the fight, those 3.2 pounds, and he probably could have made it. But he says, "Listen, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm going to just pay this guy the 1.5 mil, and I'm going to go in there at 143.2." And I'm sure he rehydrated some more prior to fight night. And of course, Devin Haney would have rehydrated some a bit too. But again, Ryan Garcia, the naturally bigger, stronger guy. Devin Haney came into the fight 29-0 with 15 knockouts. He doesn't have legitimate knockout power, but he was a technician, not a technician on the level of Floyd Mayweather Jr., who is, right? Very few people are, if any. But he was a technician in terms of a very skilled boxer, a kind of slicker boxer, a guy that always found a way to scrape out a win. Also a tough boxer, right? But most people, most of the experts, Vegas, everybody had Devin Haney as the favorite in this fight. But Ryan Garcia, as we mentioned, he gets in the ring, and of course, as you know by now, gets in the ring and he pulls the ultimate upset. He stuns, you saw right there, he stunned Devin Haney early. And he continued to land big blows throughout the course of the fight, from the first, and then he knocked Devin Haney down in the 7th round, the 10th round, and then again in the 11th before finishing the fight. So it was very interesting. And again, you talk to what was perceived as a lack of discipline and not making weight. Maybe that was by design in terms of being able to come in bigger and stronger. And it was just really interesting. But what threw me off as well, Ryan Garcia made a lot of odd comments after the fight in the post-fight press conference, where he was saying how, basically none of you believed in me. Everyone thought I was going to lose. I did my training. I still drank every night. Apparently he was seen in some club in New York in the week leading up to the fight, shirtless in there, I guess, kind of partying and doing his thing. Now, I guess if you can get away with that, you can do it. But when you fight the elite of the elite guys, and Haney is really, really good, but he's not an elite of the elite guys. When you fight those guys, that lack of discipline is going to get you beat. And that's maybe what we saw with Tank Davis, or maybe it's other things. But this was really interesting. So anyway, I was watching an episode of, It Is What It Is podcast with Cameron and Mace the other day, and Roy Jones Jr. was on there, and he was discussing this fight, and he had a lot of interesting comments to make. So I'm going to go ahead and play some of what Roy Jones Jr. had to say, and then we'll come back and talk about that. We got 3 different clips from Roy Jones Jr., and we'll kind of address each one, but he definitely had some interesting comments. Here's the first.
They've been professional. Ryan always had more of a professional grade of punching power than Devin did. Ryan's left hook has always been very significant, and he told me he really learned from watching me throw a lot of time. So, and his left hook is very similar to mine. So that's why I was trying to tell y'all that day, though I was a Haney fan because I worked with him before. I love all guys because a lot of guys look up to me, so it's hard for me to just take a side. And I had to take Devin's side because I was Devin Haney fan. I was pro Haney because I worked with him. So you can't just go say, hey, you work with the guy, but you're going to turn on him? No, you can't do that. But I did want you guys to understand that this was not going to be easy, because if they fought 6 times as amateurs, they know one another far better than I know they know one another. They know exactly what happened. We don't, but they do.
So that was interesting. He talked about the left hook. He talked about Ryan Garcia being a naturally bigger, powerful puncher on the professional level. Now, again, this is not to take anything away from Devin Haney, because he really is a skilled fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's a very tough fighter, as we saw. He probably thoroughly got beaten in this fight against Ryan Garcia, but he continued to get back up. And he had what I like to call the warrior spirit. I always talk about it. When it comes to sports like football or boxing or UFC or whatever, things like that, physical sports, you got to have the warrior spirit, because these are sports that you go in and there could be lasting physical consequences, but you want to keep getting up. You want to keep moving forward. And I mean, you're literally, as a boxer, you're going into a fight. You are paid to fight someone and paid to try to knock them out, and they're paid to try to knock you out, right? Or, win the fight however you can win it. And that is by inflicting physical violence on the other person. And so I love to see that warrior spirit that Devin Haney displayed. He never laid down. and he kept getting back up, even though he had never tasted being knocked down before in his professional career. So I thought that was really impressive. But again, you heard Roy Jones Jr. talk about the left hook and the power punching, and it really, I can't understand it, because Devin Haney is he's almost always so well prepared. Well, he has been for his entire career coming into this fight, because he had never lost. He's so prepared and so well studied in his opponent, but he kept getting caught with that left hook, knowing that is the bread and butter weapon of Ryan Garcia. I really didn't get that, because if you go back and look at the Tank Davis fight against Ryan Garcia missed a lot of those big left hooks that he was going for. Garcia was extremely well prepared, and I honestly thought, going into that fight, I thought that Ryan Garcia was going to win it. I didn't realize that Tank was such a skilled boxer, because you look at guys that are elite power punchers and you don't assume that they are skilled boxers, and Tank is one of the few guys that has both of those things. But anyway, back to Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. Let's hear Roy Jones Jr. in this second clip of what he had to say. And this one, he's going to talk a bit about rehydration and the Tank Davis fight, etc. So these were some interesting comments as well.
Boxing is a crazy sport right now, and to be honest with you, people want to see Ryan go back and fight Tank Davis without a rehydration clause. Tank was smart. He put a rehydration clause on Ryan, because I guess they're all aware of the size advantage that Ryan has when he blows back up. I really wasn't aware of it, but now I understand why he put the rehydration clause on it. They don't want Ryan to go back as big as he gets, because apparently Ryan gets pretty big. I knew Devin gets pretty big, but Ryan got bigger than Devin did, and those 3 pounds helped him get bigger than Devin did. So that being said, and with Ryan being the puncher that he is, you got to figure out a way to either take his punching power from him, or you got to find a way to outmaneuver him during the fight. Now, key thing that Devin did.
Hold on real quick, Roy, real quick, because I want to elaborate on something you said before you answer the question. What do you think about that? Because when fighters are fighting at 140 and they balloon 20 pounds up the next day, how do you feel about the rehydration clause? And do you think that it should be implicated more, or you just say, hey, that's the way it's always been? If somebody balloons up to 20, 25 pounds in a day, so be it. I just want to touch on that. What do you think about that?
Sorry, I'm old school, and that's why I always accredited myself as pound for pound the best, because 20 pounds, 15 pounds, 30 pounds, I didn't give a damn. You understand me?
That shit,
but everybody had a boxing technique or skill set that I had. So for guys who don't feel like they are equipped to handle that, they have to put in these rehydration clauses to make themselves equivalent in the fight, to make the fight kind of more equal, or give themselves a better playing field than the other guy. For me, I didn't care. I want you at your best. So if you're better 20 pounds heavier, please put those 20 pounds on and come on back to me. And let's talk about that. You know what I mean? I want to talk about it. Let's work with that, because whatever makes you be the best you can be, that's where I want you at. But nowadays, as we see, people are different. Boxing has changed. Everything has changed. The landscape has changed. Like we just said earlier, we're from a different place than these people today are. So with that being said, guys now know how to take the rehydration clauses and play with it to keep themselves closer to the same weight, so that they don't win at a disadvantage.
So that was interesting. Roy Jones had some interesting stuff to say there, and I love his mentality that he said, if that's what you do, that's fine. I want you at your best when you fight me, because I'm gonna beat you at your best. Is paraphrasing basically what he said. And so he says, they're from a different place and they're from a different time and they have a different mindset, basically. And that is absolutely true. And you're starting to see it more and more across sports, that everything is a business decision and getting away from competition in its purest form, and everything is trying to manipulate the situation as much as you possibly can. You hear me talking about that with LeBron James all the time, as a versus in like a Kobe or a Bird or a Magic or a Michael, or those guys in the past. Everything now is trying to grease the skids. And even on the boxing front, you saw Tank Davis, as Roy Jones Jr. just talked about the rehydration clause and trying to keep the weights as close as possible. And I do get that, because you fight me and let's say we're at 200 And afterwards, the next day, I end up at 220 or 225, which is crazy, right? But it happens, and you can only get up to 210. That's still a 15-pound weight difference, and that's huge. I mean, often we see large weight differences in the heavyweight division, but you get the general premise of that weight difference, carrying the weight, leaning on somebody, taking their legs away, and then also the size and the power. All that makes a difference in a sport where my whole thing is to hit you, right, and try to put you down. And so I get it, but at the same time, you know, the guys of yesteryear, the guys of the past, they didn't worry about that. They went in and they fought. It was what it was. But then you see a guy like Floyd Mayweather Jr., and his whole thing is what? Business decision and trying to manipulate circumstances, where the fight's going to be, who the judges are going to be, how the testing is going to go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Trying to manipulate every single condition, manipulate who I fight, when I fight them, blah, 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 right? And all that, I think, has hurt boxing because it's taking away from us getting the fights, us being the fans, getting the fights that we want when we need to see the fights that we want, right? Not waiting years to see somebody get old and then fight him. We saw Canelo do that with Triple G, right? He probably wasn't going to fight Triple G until Triple G literally got in the ring and pressed him. And then that fight happened. And then the second fight happened. And then the third fight, I think he waited 4 years when Triple G, I think, is already 4 or 5 years older than him. Waited for him to get older. And not only did he wait for him to get older, then he said, I'm not going to come down and wait to fight you. You need to come up to 168 and fight me, super middle, when Triple G has fought his entire career at 160. So now, even though Triple G trained that entire camp to get up to 168, carrying that 168 in a fight against another elite fighter, that's a totally different thing, especially when you fought your entire career at 160. So all these guys are doing this, manipulating circumstances and trying to put themselves in the best position to win by controlling things instead of training harder and fighting harder and being more skilled and being tougher than your opponent. And that to me really sucks. And I love Roy Jones Jr.'s mindset on this in terms of, you know, I wanted you at your best because that's how I was going to beat you. And I like that. So here's the final clip I have of Roy Jones Jr.'s comments, and he's going to speak again here to rehydration. And this was more along the lines of, they were kind of asking him, they being Cameron and Mace, like, what's next for both fighters, especially Ryan Garcia, in terms of who he's going to fight next. And I just recently read that he and Shakur Stevenson have a gentleman's agreement that they'll fight next if he can't get the rematch with Tank. And so I'm interested to see where that goes. Is there going to be no rematch with Haney? I think Haney would go back to the drawing board. I think he would train even harder. As we know, I think he's an extremely disciplined fighter. It would be interesting, but where does the weight class go, right? Is he going to try to get a rematch with Tank? That would be a big money fight, right? At the end of the day, it is prize fighting. You want the money. So could that happen? And if it does, what weight class are we talking about? And Shakur Stevenson, I think it's a little early for him to be trying to get this fight. Obviously, he wants the money, but he hasn't grown into his man body yet in terms of fighting at a bigger weight that Ryan Garcia would want to fight at. And so I don't know what it's going to be, but let's hear what Roy Jones Jr. had to say, and then we'll go from there.
That's your advantage. You should be, if you can pull down that far and go back up that much, that's your advantage. You got to work hard to get down and make that weight, and then you got to go back up that far within 24 hours. So if you can do that, then you should be allowed to take advantage of that. If I can do that, you can't, then you may be not as good as I am, or maybe you should be fighting another weight class lower than where we at. But if you're in my weight class, don't tell me how much I can go up if I make weight. Now, the fact that he didn't make weight, that's a different story, because a lot of guys take advantage of that too. They know that they're bigger than the other guy, so they come in heavier on purpose so that they can have a 3-pound jump to start with. And they know both of them will go up 20 pounds, but he may go up 23 pounds now because he had 3 pounds to start with over Devin. You understand me? Right. And that's a factor if y'all don't match up skill for skill or pound for pound is power. You understand me? And Ryan already definitely had the power advantage. So if they were the same weight, or Ryan could be bigger than Devin, it's definitely going to work to Ryan's favor because, like I said before, Ryan was always a better pro puncher than Devin was. Ryan's actually a better pro puncher than most people, with the exception of Tank. But Tank felt like he couldn't rehydrate as high as Ryan could before the fight. So he put a rehydration clause on Ryan. And, like I said, that probably had a little bit to do with it, but people want to see what happens if he doesn't have a rehydration clause. Do they fight at 135? Do they fight at 140? Ryan said he can't make 140, so he definitely can't make 135. So if we see that fight happen, it'll have to be a catch weight, which will be above 140, and Ryan does not need a rehydration clause because apparently it takes away from Ryan.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. So if Ryan's going to fight Tank, I think Ryan Garcia doesn't ever need to fight again at anything under 145. That's got to be the catch weight, and he's probably going to need to go up to 147. Now, I think he should try to get the two best money fights he can get at a catch weight of 145, whether that's Shakur Stevenson or whether that's a rematch with Tank or a rematch with Devin Haney. Whichever two of those fights he can get, he needs to get those. He needs to win those. And then he needs to try and challenge Terrence Bud Crawford at 154. Now, can he beat Terrence Bud Crawford? I highly doubt it, but he needs to fight him at 154. Or if Errol Spence Jr. is still around, he needs to fight him at 154. These are big time fights that people would pay to see. I think Ryan Garcia's got like 18 million social media followers or something like that, something crazy. So we know this is a guy that can sell a fight. His followers are going to come with him. So those are big money fights. He just needs to keep winning. They need to make good fights, and he needs to keep winning and winning convincingly. He didn't knock Devin Haney out here, but he beat him up. And so, if you're a fight fan, that's the type of thing that you love to see. So this is what Ryan Garcia needs to continue to do. Now, on the flip side, I would love to see Devin Haney come back, win the rematch, and then get a third fight. I love to see a rubber match, right? Because those are the type of things that you love. Those are great for the sport of boxing, and I think it would work out well. Storyline wise, skill wise, legacy wise, all that. So you do that, and then you get the three, and then maybe Ryan Garcia wins the third, and then he gets the Tank rematch, or he gets the Shakur Stevenson. By then, Shakur Stevenson maybe bulks up a bit. He is extremely skilled, tremendous young fighter. I don't know if he's quite ready for that yet, but we'll see. But yeah, I think that this is what you need to be looking for if you're Ryan Garcia, and then try to get up to a Terrence Bud Crawford before he retires. So that's what my plan would be if I'm De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins and Golden Boy. That would be my plan. Get him two quality fights here at about 145, and then go up to 154 and try to get Terrence Bud Crawford in the ring. That would be me. But overall, I think this is really good for boxing. I'm not a boxing expert, but I do like boxing a lot. I tune into the big fights. It's disturbing to me that boxing has kind of fallen behind in terms of American sporting interest, but it is what it is. But it shows that there's still love for it, because when the big fights happen, people watch. And speaking of big fights, we do have some key fights coming up. This was kind of the beginning of a nice little stretch over the next couple of months where we'll see some quality fights, and let me show you those. So as you can see here, May 4th, this is going to be a big one. This is 2 weeks from now. Canelo versus Jaime Munguia. Canelo, obviously the face of the sport. Jaime Munguia is undefeated Mexican, and so that should be really good. Now, we all wanted to see Canelo versus David Benavidez, but Canelo clearly does not want to fight David Benavidez, to the point that I believe he left the zone to avoid fighting him. But this should still be a good one, an all-Mexican tussle. That May 11th, Vasily Lomachenko versus Kambosos Jr. I want to know, how does George Kambosos Jr., even though he's a former champion, how does he keep getting guys to come over to Australia to fight? I have no idea. May 18th, Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury. Two outstanding skill fighters for the undisputed heavyweight championship. That should be a great one. The winner of that, I guess, is probably going to fight Anthony Joshua. So looking forward to that. And then the follow-on fight. And finally, that June 1st, Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev. Artur Beterbiev is an absolute machine, a monster, light heavyweight champ. Well, they're both light heavyweight champs. Beterbiev is 20-0 with 20 knockouts, but Dmitry Bivol is an extremely skilled fighter. He beat Canelo Alvarez, 2 fights back, I guess. And I guess Canelo thought that he was going to be getting into another Sergey Kovalev, right? He didn't catch Crusher Kovalev now. He caught an old Sergey Kovalev. So I don't even know that Canelo could have beat Crusher Kovalev when he was at his peak, banging everybody out. But now we've got that Bivol Beterbiev fight, and that should be amazing. And it's interesting. I don't think that Canelo and Bivol are going to fight again, and I definitely can't see Canelo fighting Beterbiev. He doesn't want any problems or any parts of that. Canelo has done very well to take on the Floyd model of generally fighting the lesser risk situations, or again being the A side and the main guy, the face of boxing, manipulating his situations as best he can, as we saw with him. I'm going to flat out say it, ducking David Benavidez, so the Mexican monster. But he's got another Mexican monster here, a guy who probably is going to lose this fight against Canelo, but a guy who is a dangerous opponent in Jaime Munguia. So yeah, that's what I got. This one ran a little longer than expected, had some really good commentary from Roy Jones Jr., so I like that a lot, and definitely just wanted to give boxing some love and some shine, and really get in here and talk about that. So what I want from you, as always, leave your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think about boxing? What do you think of this next month and a half, 2 month stretch of really quality fights we have coming up? What do you think of Ryan Garcia, his crazy antics? Do you think he can go on and become one of the main pound for pound guys in the sport of boxing? Leave your comments in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you. Make sure to hit me up anytime. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and follow all the content we putting out, man. I am doing my best to continue to push out quality content. All right, so I guess that's what I got. Thanks so much for checking in, and I'm out. Peace.